story motherfucking time. So some time ago, I started a story on TikTok and Instagram, and I wanted to come on here and extend the story. And by extend, I mean just tell the entire version of the story. With TikTok and Instagram, actually more so Instagram, you really only have 90 seconds to tell a story that really deserves 10 to 15 minutes. So here we are, telling a story about my very, very interesting family members. For those of you who have been here before, you know that any story that includes a family member of mine includes a lot of other components that will somehow have you on the edge of your seat. So let us begin. So some time ago, I was in middle school. No, high school. Middle school? High school. And I was in this period or this class, we called it periods, classes, whatever. This block of time where I was in a class where our main teacher was on maternity leave. They already had someone that would come in to temporarily take her place. So we had became familiar with another person, but that person was sick. So now there was a substitute for the temp substitute. All that really means is that we weren't doing anything. There was no lesson. There was no work. There was no teaching. We were all in there shooting the shit. You know what I'm saying? All of that being said, I wasn't the most excitable high school student. I wasn't the most popular. I definitely wasn't disliked. I just kept to myself. I was in my brother's shadow. Y'all have heard a lot of my big brother's story times on TikTok and IG, and some of them here. But yeah, he was definitely the life of the party. You know, the ladies loved him. Ladies loved him. And he was popular with the teachers, with his friends, well known, and therefore I was known by default. And there definitely were a few females that wanted to preserve a friendship or some sort of acquaintanceship with me for the sake of being close enough to him. Definitely received a fair share of questions that a little sister really shouldn't be asked about their brother's body parts. So, anyways, back to the story. So I'm sitting more towards the front of the classroom. Let's say that the desk was here. This is where I was sitting, and there was a lot of commotion to the back of me. Just everybody just kicking it with their friends. Some people coming from other classes to hang out in here because this substitute teacher really didn't appear to give two shits. But wait. So as I said, my brother was real popular, and especially popular with the ladies. There have been girls who have actively fought for him physically. Anyways, that being said, I'm reading like the nerd that I was. And this girl comes and she sits next to me, and I'm not paying her any attention. Not really sure why she left where she was to come sit next to me to tell me what she told me. And so what she said was, I'm not really sure what the big deal is with your brother anyways. He kind of looks like a monkey. This was how she approached me. These were the words, the first set of words that came out her mouth. We were not conversing with one another. There was nothing that led up to that. I need you guys to understand that. Granted, this is high school. Yes, in hindsight, I am an obvious adult now, and I can look back and say that statement was obviously made for attention. So anyways, in the time, as a teenager, no, I'm not psychoanalyzing why she came and sat next to me. It annoyed me, but I did not show grave annoyance. Instead, I continued to turn the pages of my book, and I said, what does it matter what he looks like? You've never had a problem putting anyone's or anything's stick in your mouth. So it sounds like you shot your shot and were shot down. You see what I'm saying? You understand where I'm coming from? So my thought process was, your butt hurt. So now you feel like you have to reciprocate some sort of hurt. You feel like you gotta come try to attack me, try to rile me up. No. No, I'm reading. Do not bother me. I already know what you're about. You're salty. Get out my face. Except the substitute teacher sitting there, not paying anybody else any attention. I swear somebody could have crawled up the wall, convinced themselves that they were Spider-Man. She would have done nothing, but she heard me say that and became immediately shocked and appalled and demanded that we walk to the principal's office together. Me and her, not me, her, and the other girl that started this whole nonsense in the first place. So we walk there. We're dealing with the assistant principal. She tells the assistant principal what I said with so much vehemence. Okay, like there was such a performance. She was just utterly shocked and devastated. There was it was outrageously chaotic in that classroom, but she heard me. Y'all, before we go any further, I need y'all to understand, again, I led an uneventful life. I did not get into fights. I did not argue. I let things go. I did not care enough. I need y'all to understand that. This platform that I built for myself with storytelling, I came into it. This was not something that I was always about. I was always about the stories. Loved reading, loved listening to stories. And my passion led to this. But this persona that I've developed came later in life. So the assistant principal wore his shock. He was like, "Oh, wow, Ashley, I'm shocked. We're gonna have to call your mother." Now, this is the part where I wanted to go into further detail on Tiki-Taki and IG. But again, that minute and 30-second restraint that you have with IG prevents you from doing that. And I just post what I put on IG on Tiki-Taki. You know what I'm saying? It just has to fit within that time frame. I strongly advised against it. My first reaction was, I don't feel like calling my mother's a good idea. I actually recommended that they called my dad instead. My dad would likely be like, "Let me talk to her, hand her the phone," and he'll probably be like, "Don't cause no problem. You know you don't want them to call your mother. If they call your mother, it will be a bigger problem. Just take it easy now, man. Leave the people, let them say what they want to say. Don't get caught up in it." My dad was just going to be one of the, just let it go. Let it go. Set it free. Release it. That would have been the conversation. They would have hung up the phone. I would have gotten detention and all would have been well, right? Well, not really well. It would have been simple. It would have been ideal. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to help them. In hindsight, looking back, I should have been like, "Yeah, go ahead, give her a call." Anyways, they said, "No, unfortunately, Ashley, we do not condone these kinds of words or behavior." Something along those lines. You know how they get when you getting in trouble. They have to tell you what is and is not supported at this school. This is what we stand for. This is our motto. And I completely obliterated it. With all of the trouble that I have not gotten into, I obliterated it by defending myself, by sticking up for my brother against a statement that was rude. Okay? These people acting like I went and sought this girl out, told her to come sit next to me, say something inappropriate so that I would have the opportunity to say something in return. So I said, "I don't think you understand. This isn't necessarily going to end well for you guys. I'm not worried about me." And I'm saying this so calm. I have a very blasé demeanor, and it's not at all because I was trying to portray this donkey adam teenager. My family says donkey adam. It's a Caribbean thing. It's all I'm really trying to say is I wasn't trying to portray this like cool vibe or like, you know, swag. I really honestly, like, that was how I presented. I was reading, y'all interrupted me. My demeanor was, I'm just trying to help y'all. So they, I'm sure, took it as I didn't care. I don't, you know, like as some sort of blasé teenage attitude. And they're like, "We're giving her a call. You'll need to speak. You'll have to explain why you said," you know, like weird. So they called her once. No answer. They called again. At this point, this substitute teacher has not returned to the classroom. She's there. She just is reveling. Like, she's acting like me and her have history. Like, she can't wait to see me get in trouble. I've never met this woman a day before in my life. I don't know what her problem was. Matter of fact, yes I do. But that's another story for another day. So, they called her again. Now, my mother, very Caribbean, very Trinidadian, their school system, especially when she was growing up, very different than ours. Obviously, every country is different. That goes without saying. But specifically for my mother and in the Caribbean, there are certain things that you just don't call home for. In fact, you really only called home if it was a genuine emergency. My mother had a really hard time adjusting to the reasons that parents were called. Very hard time. Certain things were already set in place, already set up. So, and this is in the Caribbean. So whenever she would get a call about certain things, it would irritate her. She's like, I'm at work. I am a hardworking woman. I have bills to pay. Y'all have me stepping away. They are, in any case, it is a waste of time. Y'all got me concerned because in the Caribbean, you only get a call when something is serious. My blood pressure's up. Yo, why are you calling me? So the second time she answers and she's very, like, the phone is not on speakerphone. And I hear the angry, hello, very loud. And they immediately jump into, Mrs. So-and-so, I just wanted to bring to your attention that your child was very disrespectful today, stepped outside of what we blah, 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 blah. They said all of this to her. The substitute teacher is standing there with her hand on her hip, looking at me. When I tell you the shout my mother give the assistant principal, I can hear it, and we're not dealing with the speakerphone button. She said, so wait, if that dirty child want to go and put everybody penis in she mouth, that is my problem and my child problem? Look, if I don't send my child back to class, what kind of stupidness is this? So the assistant principal tried to get a word in, tried to explain what they stood for. My mother said, you don't stand for much. You never did, because this was a waste of my time. If you stood for anything, I would have never get this call. And then the call ended. So the substitute teacher, now, I know what it looks like to see an individual who is Caucasian or melanin lacking to blush. I know what it looks like. But the substitute teacher, like, the blushing was a little splotchy. Like, it kind of looked like she immediately developed a rash. So then I said, are you okay? And then she looks at me, all shocked, doesn't say a word. And I was like, there's something going on your face. And so she like yanks up something that has a reflection on it and stares at herself and drops it and storms out. The assistant principal says, Ashley, you should probably head back to class. I told y'all not to call my very Caribbean mother. Very Caribbean. And for those of you who were or who was raised in America with immigrant parents, I'm sure y'all can relate that there are certain things that they just don't understand where the American school system is concerned. Obviously, they're coming here to try to give their family a better life. You know, they hear about the American dream. They're like, this is where I need to be to give my children a life that is different from the life that I had to endure. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to run into things that they simply cannot understand. You do not just go to another land and immediately shed customs from where you're from. It is just something that my mother has always had a hard time adjusting to. The school systems were very, very different. The reasons that they called home, reasons that they needed paperwork signed, very, very different. So I just want to interrupt this story very quickly to share that I have shifted Epstein Street and Shadow of a Doubt to my Patreon. And I did so because it just didn't develop the audience that a lot of my other stories developed. And I felt that it would be best to put it on a more exclusive platform for a more exclusive and smaller group of people. Just as a quick example, I'll put up one video that'll likely just get 5,000 views in 5 hours versus one of the series, Epstein Street and Shadow of a Doubt, will probably develop 5,000 views over 5 months. So it's just analytical. It just makes sense for me to put it on a more private, more exclusive platform. I will post it. There will be a snippet right after this video, all within the same video. So stick around to see the newest episode of Shadow of a Doubt. And the next video I post, you'll get a snippet of the newest video of Epstein Street. And you guys can continue there, continue watching there. You know, it'll all be there for you on my Patreon, and the link is below. Also check out my new website. Everything is below for you guys to check out. Anyways, back to the story. So of course I get home that day. My mom gets home a little later and she said, "What is really going on?" And it's not even, she's yet to address with me what they said. She's still irritated, angry, flustered at the thought of them calling her to tell her what I told someone else. That's not enough for her. That's not, it just wasn't. It just didn't make any sense to her. It didn't. And then as she began to address it, she was like, "I feel like these people think," essentially saying that she thinks that they think that she's stupid. She knows me. She knows her child. And she knows that I don't get in trouble. I've never gotten in trouble. So for them to call her and assume that she's immediately going to scold me without wanting to know what happened, what prompted me to say something like that to someone else, is an insult to her intellect. And that erupted in her saying, "Is this the stupidness all you're calling me for? Who do you think I am?" You know, it was insulting to my mother. And I understand. It's more than just different customs. It's more than just a different land. It's more than just an adjustment. It is a grave disrespect. And that's another thing. A lot of times I have an immense amount of respect for teachers, a gross amount of respect for teachers. But in every profession, including mine as a nurse, there is always going to be a bad apple or a bad seed or a crooked one. It's just in every profession. And sometimes, in some cases, I do feel like these calls are really just because some teachers really genuinely do not like a certain student, or there is just something in them that they cannot bring themselves to for no reason. Sometimes they'll just dislike someone for no reason. But that happens in nursing. That happens in a simple desk job. It happens in, positions where there are more robust opportunities for promotion. There's favoritism. It's in every profession. And I felt like my brother did get in trouble. But after a certain amount of calls, my mom started to sit and think like, all of these phone calls are not associated with my son provoking an issue. I don't know. It was an interesting experience. If anything, what I got is that I know that no matter what happens, my mother will not immediately assume that I am at fault. I know that I've always known that I've had a support system. Always. Anyways, guys, don't forget to slide over to my Patreon to catch up on Shadow of a Doubt and Epstein Street. Check out my newest website. And if you're feeling generous, click the link below to donate to my campaign. There is also a new episode of Zyla, my super sexy storytelling podcast. Thanks, guys. They're being used. And when they went to the spiritual guide, he confirmed that, but he also confirmed that Isabella has shut her aura off from him, so he cannot pull from it anymore to provide guidance to them. Now, here they are in their car, heading back to Bella's parents' house because the spiritual guide also recommended that they lay low. They don't know whether they're being manipulated by Isabella or whether they're actually being warned by her, and if they do need to begin planning Elizabeth's death for the sake of keeping Bella safe.